Okay, back here for game 5. I have once again mulligan to 6. Hand is not great. Going to be a little slow. Need to find a clock, which has been our issue throughout the entire match. But on 6 cards, I think this is a keep.
I've also mulliganed to 6. This hand is pretty awkward once again, but that's fine.
Scry, and I plan on doing this first, so it doesn't really matter, but scry that one to the bottom.
I think this is one of those rare spots where I just have to bottom this.
And I will get a Watery Grave and suspend an Ancestral. I'm 17. So you can go.
And I'll pay 2 life and suspend Ancestral. So I'm at I'm at 18, you're at 17.
Yep.
Pretty far off this and don't really have any interaction, so it's hard to say. Frost doesn't have a clock and our Ancestral Visions is able to resolve, then maybe we win this game, but it's not looking good.
Well, probably would have cast these things differently had I known my draw step, but still a good one, so. I could wait a turn, but with the Ancestral, if he wants to bolt this, like, I just need to get it down, use my mana. If I don't play now, like, then it gets remanded too. It just have to take the risk.
So it's not a bad draw, but it definitely puts us in a weird spot. So we can play this, try to hit bolt, and just plan on playing this tapped, or we can pay 2 life for this, but then we're just kind of staring at Bob, and that's not great. Also, with our mana situation, it's not clear that we're actually going to ever be able to play this if we decide on this line. And if Ross just has, like, a discard spell to clear the way, then we look kind of stupid. So I think all those things considered, I'll just play Serum Visions. And I don't want either of these cards.
Okay, that's good for us.
Place it on the ground pass.
It's not able to deal with our Bob. Go down to 2, show you a Goyf. I'm at 15.
Yep.
Draw for turn. Both not bad draws. Attack you for 2.
16.
I will Thoughtseize you. I go to 13.
So I guess our remand would have gotten Thoughtseized, and then we would be facing Goyf this turn. So, I mean, we're still in trouble, but worked out a little bit better at least.
So now I want to decide between... I was saying I want to decide between Cryptic and Oracle, but you only have one blue source, so...
Yep.
I think that safely means Oracle is the play. If you even had a second blue source, I think I'd take Cryptic, but on only one, I'd rather take the Oracle. So you have Stormground Forest, Cryptic Remand. I'll crack to 12, get a Forest, and play... Sorry, wrong one. I already found my Swamp, so I'd rather leave the Misty in my hand in case I want to find the island.
Alright. I'll bolt your Dark Confidant. Go.
So you have land, instant sorcerer creature.
Yep.
So now I know your hand is Forest, Cryptic Remand, or Stormground Cryptic Remand. You played the Forest, so you can hold up Remand, sure. Well, that was a very good draw. Kind of ruins most of my plans, because now my Ancestral is almost certainly getting remanded.
Yeah, definitely gives me a chance.
Oh. That was a good draw. Attack for 4.
12.
12. You can go.
Go.
And yeah, I'll let that resolve. I'll draw. Attack you for 4.
8.
8. And I don't envision this game actually going long enough for me to want to suspend the Ancestral, and I'm worried about another remand, so I'm just going to pass.
Oh, the one of.
Yeah.
Play this Prismatic Omen that theoretically allows me to Cryptic Command next turn. Pass.
I will crack this.
Yep.
I'm going to go to 9 and get a... Guess I'll get green-blue. Get a breeding pool and decay.
Yep. I'm dead.
You have 3 cards in hand?
Yep.
Tribe Elder is probably... You're out.
I don't think that does anything.
And now go
but,
5/6 because of enchantment?
Yep.
Attack you with 3. And once again, these Ancestral... I just don't even want to tap any mana.
Yep, dead. All right, back here for the conclusion of our Versus series, Scapeshift versus Sultai Control. Yeah, I like my deck a lot. It felt fluid. I've played Scapeshift in the past, and a lot of the times you're kind of just like facing this sweat because you're never really sure if you're going to win or not. You're kind of just like always actively losing until the turn you win with your Scapeshift, and you kind of have to acquire a bunch of resources and then finally resolve this 4-mana sorcery. So despite the fact that you literally can play 1 card and win the game, like you're kind of under pressure the entire time. But I like the way that Prismatic Omen gives the deck basically a built-in combo in itself. Even though it doesn't necessarily kill your opponent immediately, the fact that it lets you just play a 2-mana enchantment, play some lands, even just manage your opponent's board and then buy you some time, or it just goes upstairs and kills your opponent. It's pretty sweet. Overall, I felt like because of that, the deck was a little bit more threat dense, which I like.
Yeah, it was a lot more resilient, had this air of inevitability about it. And even without Omen, if the game goes long enough, you can just naturally put that many mountains in play with your Farseeks and fetch lands. So definitely changed the way that I had to play from my end. I probably undervalued how important it was to put a clock on you, even though you're a slower combo deck, because you had that inevitability. And as we saw in Game 5, like a game where I had an early Tarmogoyf was really huge, and your mana situation was pretty poor, and I was able to punish you effectively for that. And I think had I valued that, maybe mulligan hands earlier that were a little slower, or in Game 4 when I discarded the Tarmogoyf to my Liliana, had I either not attacked with my Scavenging Ooze so I could protect it from a potential Baloth, or just not activated Liliana that turn and played the Tarmogoyf, I think I would have been in much better shape.
Sure.
And could have definitely won that game. So it came off as pretty close, when normally I've been under the impression that these black-green X decks are pretty favored against Scapeshift, and I think against most variants they are, but that this Daryl's list is particularly well positioned for the matchup because of the added late-game angle that the deck has. So even if you get constrained on resources early, if your opponent's not able to clock you, you can go long, recover from it, and eventually assemble a winning position.
Yeah.
And the Obstinate Bailiffs do a really good job against Liliana, which is the primary card that the black-green decks have at constraining your resources in the first place.
Yeah.
Like I had that Liliana early in that 4th game that I just couldn't cast for a long time because I knew you had Baloth in hand, and it just wouldn't do anything.
Right. Do want to note that Daryl has played this deck for literally forever, like 2 or 3 years, and he's played a lot of Magic Online. I know he's won a Mox with it. Played it in multiple Grand Prix. Played it at a Pro Tour, maybe 2. Just a lot of experience with the deck. And the point I'm trying to make is like his list is very tuned. So
yeah,
I would encourage anyone who likes Scapeshift to play his list, whatever he's playing at the time, because it's his baby.
Yeah, sure.
And so the deck, it felt good. The numbers look good on paper, and it doesn't surprise me that it's probably just the best version of the archetype you can play.
Yeah, I would not be surprised about that either. As far as the Sultai deck, it felt very similar, obviously, to Jund and Abzan, as we would have expected. Ancestral wasn't great in this matchup because
slow.
Yeah, it's a little slow. I'd rather have something with more immediate impact. I'm sure Ancestral is a lot better in the pseudo mirrors where you're playing against Jund and Abzan. Yeah. The counter spells were a welcome addition. We got to see only Snapcaster only once showed up, but there were many times I wanted to draw it actually. So Snapcaster looked pretty good, but that's no surprise in this matchup as well, to be able to double up on your important pieces of interaction. I'm not sold that this is better than Jund. I think having a bit more of a clock, I think Bolt being able to go upstairs is actually important in certain matchups. And there are other ways you can gain card advantage, and you don't need to rely on something as brute forcey as Ancestral that ends up being fairly slow.
Yeah, I think actually that's a good thing to note. A lot of people underrate like the fact that you can just lightning bolt your opponent. Usually takes like an entire turn off the clock, which is very very important in modern because there's combo decks.
That's like gaining a card.
Yeah,
And it's like gaining a card plus 2 or 3 mana, however, or maybe 4, depending upon how many lands they have in play.
usually grows your bolt.
Yeah,
Or grows your coif. Grows your bolt.
we understood what you
Yeah,
meant.
thanks.
And
Which can equal 5 or 6 damage over the course of a game.
Raging Ravine also applies a lot of pressure out of the Jund deck. You have Kolaghan's Command that can occasionally go upstairs. You can, people generally do undervalue. I think it's turning around because we talk about it all the time now, but undervaluing how important it is to apply pressure and put a clock on your opponent.
Yeah. That all being said, I mean, I'm sure Ancestral Visions is very, very good. And like you said, the pseudo mirrors.
Yeah.
If your opponent has lightning bolts, which trade with like, maybe your Scavengers or maybe your Dark Confidant, and you have an Ancestral Recall, the games are going to go long. You're going to trade resources ad nauseum, and then eventually you're going to pull ahead, draw 3, be able to stick a threat or maybe a Planeswalker. I mean, that's still a very powerful effect. And like you said, Snapcaster Mage it's weird. And those kinds of decks, in my experience, it's either like the best possible draw or just absolutely horrid. And there's not really much in between.
Yeah, there may given the texture of my draws throughout the course of the match we played, I think it would have ended up being on the high end of that
Very
spectrum.
good, I agree.
It is pretty high variance in decks like this, just why you only see the 2 copies. After seeing how the deck plays out, it feels like this might be the sort of black-green axe variant you bring when you want to beat up on the other mid-range decks.
Yep.
So very much a metagame call for a certain week and poor in other weeks. And right now, Modern to me seems fairly fast. People are playing a lot of Infect, Burn, and Affinity, and Ancestral is pretty poor in all 3 of those matchups.
Agreed. I'm guessing Alan just, likes playing rock decks and wanted to play with Ancestral Visions, and that's
which
how
is
this deck
perfectly
came
reasonable.
around.
And the decks still has there's only so low of a floor you can have when you're playing Thoughtseize Inquisition, Bob and Tarmogoyf, and Liliana in your deck. Like it's still going to be pretty good in most of your games.
Yeah, exactly.
And approximately the same. So he did well. The deck's good. If this is the kind of deck you want to play, it's a perfectly viable version. I actually really like the counter spells on the board. I think I might play more of them. Like they're good in this matchup. Dispel's great against Infect. The Dispel and Negate both good against Burn, so that they help against some of those faster matchups where Ancestral isn't as good. So I think having more counter spells on the board and then making your Snapcasters that much better in the sideboard games is something that you can look to if you want to play this variant of the deck and improve on it going forward.
Yeah, I agree. Jund traditionally has kind of a mediocre matchup against Burn and not necessarily Infect or Affinity, but those counter spells definitely they're kind of functionally life gain in that matchup specifically, which is something people kind of overlook.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, they give you percentage points against various combo decks. So I like having access to 2 negates or 2 dispels or what have you.
Having that mix between discard spells and counter spells is really nice because the combo decks can typically bias their deck after board to be good against one angle, but they're a lot worse when you can attack them for both angles, and they're not sure which one they're going to have to defend against that game, and maybe they have to defend against both.
And usually a big point of contention for combo decks is they can kind of like build up their hand to work around the single counter spell, but when you throw in discard, you can play discard and kind of force the combo deck be under pressure to play their big thing, and then your one counter spell really shines and ends the game on the spot.
Yeah,
which is exactly how you want to draw it up if you're playing a deck like this.
Yeah, and then you just clock them with your Tarmogoyf.
Yep.
Black, blue, green, perfect.
Yeah, just
Tarmogoyf, counterspell, Thoughtseize.
Yeah, just
we got all the angles.
All the angle. I think that's about it. I mean,
I think we did a good job of showcasing one of the 2 unbannings with Ancestral Vision playing prominently, although much more for me than for you.
Yeah, I mean, my Ancestral Vision just played for your team.
Yeah.
But,
so that was
whatever.
nice. That was nice of them. I needed some help.
Yeah.
And then they noticed that, and they're like, okay, we'll give Ross a break this week.
Just the clean 4 for once. Pretty good. Got to do that twice.
So I hopefully we'll see a bit more of the Thopter Sword combo show up in Columbus at the Invitational.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and by the time you're all watching this, you'll know. I assume it will.
Yeah.
I'm sure Jerry's hard at work even right now.
Probably literally in real time right now.
Yeah, in real time in his apartment on the couch, no lights on, notebook out.
You need light to write in a notebook.
I think Jerry's written in his notebook so much that he can just write it in pitch darkness.
It's like 2 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
It's light out.
It doesn't have to be.
I don't even know what you're getting at.
I'm trying to.
I literally have no idea what the implication
I'm
is
trying
here.
to paint a word picture for our audience of Jerry Thompson being a mad
real
scientist.
creepy, just sitting in the dark, scribbling
Not
in his
necessarily
notebook.
creepy, but being a mad scientist. It's never dark in never light in a mad scientist lab. They're always inside like a volcano,
But it's
or
always like
underwater.
It's like midnight
They're-
and it's dark and stormy out. It's 2
No.
o'clock in Roanoke, Virginia.
But he needs to be like a mad scientist every hour of the day in order to get it right. He needs 75 cards. They need to be perfect. It's a lot to figure out. So you need to have the right mood, and you need to keep it like that for as long as you need. So if it needs to be dark and stormy for a week and a half straight, I'm sure he'll find a way to make that happen.
Dude, everyone needs vitamin D. It's important.
It is actually very important.
It is important.
Hopefully he's taking some supplements. Get his one-a-days.
Oh.
Our director's trying to keep us on target here. Which is probably good.
I usually try to salvage this, but
It's
I'm really
usually majors,
I'm at a
but
loss for words here.
I've flustered him this week. I've gone too far. We needed to bring in reinforcements.
It's gotten too weird.
To keep me in line. So this weekend for everyone out there, you have SCG Milwaukee to look forward to. Modern in the wake of the Invitational in Columbus. Hopefully some sweet decks have emerged. You've got some choices, and you're able to make it out to Milwaukee for that tournament. I will not be there.
Unclear.
Unclear
we're too far in the future.
Yeah. I know Cedric and Jerry are planning on going, so you can say hi to them. And then in the booth, we have Ryan Overturf and Matthias Hunt.
Fresh off of the Columbus Invitational.
2 weeks in a
Just
row.
run it back.
We'll see how they handle the back-to-back. That's tough. That's a lot of traveling. Although in Minneapolis, they're not going too far for either.
Yeah,
Columbus is like a short flight, and then they're probably driving to Milwaukee. That's probably only like a 4-hour drive.
I think they got this.
Yeah, so I think they'll be okay. They've both been playing Magic forever. They're used to long road trips.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, if you can't make it out to Milwaukee, you can tune in on SCG Live for that. Get some modern action after these weeks of standard.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just no Eldrazi. You can replace your hate of the Eldrazi with Thopter tokens. We'll see that happen.
I have a long-standing hate of Thopter tokens. I've never really played with Thopter Sword. I didn't have the cards back then. I played with the Boris Burn deck, Landfall.
Oh, yeah.
Flagstones of Trocare, Ghost Quarter, my land, get 3 counters in my Zekdar Shrine Expedition, make a 7/1, or like a gigantic Step Links.
Those were some pure days.
Yeah, that deck was really just trying to cheese people. It just tried to kill you on turn 3 as often as it possibly could.
Yeah, and then it died to 2020 Merit Lage.
Yeah. Pretty frequent. Actually, I died to Thopter. You died to Thopter Sword a lot more often. The deck had Ghost Quarter and Path. Like, you could deal with Dark Depths and Merit
Yeah, but
Lage.
if you ever just tapped out, you're dead. All right, we're done.
If you tapped out, they were dead. That's the point of
done.
the deck.
I'm done. I'm done with this video. I'm over it.
He's hungry.
Please,
he's cranky.
Please
We need to get some lunch into him.
join us in person or on SCG Live for the open tour stop in Milwaukee. I'm done.
I guess that means I'm done too. See you next week.